We're making a rich and creamy no-bake cheesecake that's healthier and higher in protein with cottage cheese, cream cheese, and protein powder. It's sweetened with white chocolate chips, and the easy gluten-free crust tastes just like graham crackers. Hello, my name is Nicole Bonilla. If you love healthier recipes to our favorite foods, then you are in the right place. Now, you're welcome to jot down these ingredients as we go along, or you can click on the link that's in the video description below, and that will take you to the full recipe with all the details, including nutrition facts, ingredients and substitutions, and frequently asked questions. So we're going to start by making this crust, and it's going to taste just like graham crackers, but gluten-free and with clean ingredients. We're going to start with oat flour, and you could use store-bought or you can grind your own. All you have to do is take old-fashioned or quick oats, run them in a food processor or blender for about 30 seconds, and you have the best flour. So we're going to start with 1.5 cups of oat flour. And then for some delicious flavor and consistency, we're going to add some almond butter, and we're adding 1/3 cup. Now you could also use cashew butter if you like, which will make the taste a little more subtle. And as our sweetener, we'll add 1/4 cup of maple syrup. You could also use honey. Next, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of coconut oil, and this will help solidify the crust when it's cool. And the secret to getting that graham cracker flavor is adding 1 tablespoon of molasses. But you can also just replace this with more honey or maple syrup if you don't have any. And then for just a little flavor, we'll add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now you could use a mixer to blend this together or just a sturdy spatula. So I'm just going to stir it all together till it's nice and smooth. And then as soon as we have it all incorporated, we can press it into our pan. Now this cheesecake is going to fill a standard 8 or 9 inch spring form pan. And I do like to spray the bottom with just a little bit of coconut oil, as well as up the sides. And we're just going to drop in our crust. And initially I'll spread it out with my spatula. And there is enough crust that you could go up the sides and have it just a little bit thinner, or just keep it on the bottom and have it a little bit thicker. And then I'm just going to come in with my hand and press it down even more. And now that our crust is pressed down, we can set this aside. To make this cheesecake filling, we're going to start by prepping our cream cheese. And I just have 12 ounces here, which is 1.5 blocks. Now we want to warm up this cream cheese so that it's really spreadable to put into our crust. So I'm just going to transfer it to a microwave safe plate. And then with my knife, I'm just going to kind of slice it into like 1/2 inch little chunks. And I'm going to spread these out on my plate. And you can do this with cold cream cheese right out of the fridge. Now that they're all spread out, we're going to put them in the microwave and heat them up in about 25-second intervals, just until they're soft and squishy. So after the first 25 seconds, I can just tap them with my finger, and they're starting to get soft, but they're not quite there. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in for another 20 seconds. So after our second round of 25 seconds, these are nice and soft and just a little bit warm, so that's perfect. The next thing we want to prep is our cottage cheese. Now, I like to use the full fat version for the most creaminess, and I also like to use large curd, but you can use any variety that you like. But the important thing is we want to drain off any excess liquid, because that's going to help us have a nice thicker cheesecake once it sets. So if you open up your cottage cheese and you have this liquid on the top, we want to remove that. And a really easy way to do that is to use a strainer bag or a thin kitchen towel, or even several plies of paper towels. So I just have a simple strainer bag here, and I'm going to empty in 1.5 cups of cottage cheese. And then I'm just going to close off my bag here. And we don't need to go crazy with this. We just want to give it a nice gentle squeeze, which will just press out some of the extra liquid. And then we can set this aside. And the last thing we need to prep is our white chocolate. And I love using the white chocolate because not only does it sweeten the cheesecake, but it also helps it set nice and firm. But you can also use powdered sugar or even maple syrup in the same amount, but you will have a slightly softer cheesecake. So I've just taken 2/3 cup of white chocolate chips, and you can use any variety that meets your dietary needs. And we're just going to melt this in the microwave in 30-second intervals until it is nice and smooth. So after our first 30 seconds, it's starting to melt, but it's not quite there yet. So I'm just going to give this a quick stir and then put it back in the microwave for another 30 seconds. After our second round of 30 seconds, that is nice and smooth and ready to go into our filling. So to blend the cheesecake filling, I'm going to use a food processor, but you could also use a high-speed blender. So we're just going to dump in our 1.5 cups of lightly strained cottage cheese and our 12 ounces of warmed cream cheese. And then we can pour in our melted white chocolate chips. And you could also use white chocolate melting wafers if you like. Now to add a little more protein, flavor, and thickness to this cheesecake, we're going to add some protein powder. And I love using this protein powder because it's organic, naturally sweetened, and we really like the flavor. And I've included a link in the video description below if you'd like to check it out. So we're going to add 1/3 cup of vanilla protein powder. And for flavor, we'll add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. And I highly recommend it because it gives it just that little natural tang that is so delicious in cheesecake. And blend it on high till it is smooth and creamy. And that looks gorgeous. And one of the benefits of this being a no-bake cheesecake is that we can sample it right now. That is delicious. But if it's not quite sweet enough for you, go ahead and add a little bit of maple syrup or even some powdered sugar. But I think this is perfect. And then we're just gonna dump the filling dry on top of our crust in our springform pan. And then we'll just spread it out until it's nice and even. Now, if you could use more healthy inspiration on a regular basis, I invite you to join my email list. All you have to do is click on the link in the video description below, and that is the best way for us to stay connected. So let's carefully spread this all the way out to the edges. And using the warm cream cheese and the melted chocolate makes this very easy to spread. And then we have this beautiful cheesecake that we want to put into the fridge for about 4 to 6 hours to set. But if you're in a hurry, you could go ahead and put it in the freezer for maybe half hour to an hour and then put it into your fridge. So I have one here that I made earlier that is set and ready to serve. So before I take off the springform pan, I'm going to come in with a really slender knife and just kind of run it around the edge to help release it. I can go ahead and release the sides. Oh my goodness, we have this gorgeous cheesecake. And to get the cleanest cut, I just ran my knife under some warm water. That knife cuts right through with just a little bit of filling on it. So we'll go ahead and just wipe that off. I'll come in with a spatula. Oh my goodness, that looks so good. Now you could just enjoy it plain, but I love adding my cherry sauce. It's naturally sweetened and super easy to make. And I included a link in the description below if you'd like to check it out. So I'm gonna add a little scoop of cherries on top. Oh, this day keeps getting better and better. That is absolutely divine. As soon as you bite in, you get that delicious crust that tastes just like graham crackers. And then you get that creamy cheesecake filling that has so much flavor. I love the little hint of lemon on it, and it's perfectly sweetened with the white chocolate chips. And then of course, getting a cherry on top just makes anything better. But I love that this is made with clean natural ingredients and higher in protein. Well, thank you so much for joining me today in my kitchen. I've included a link to the full recipe and it's in the video description below. And that will take you to my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I invite you to join me again in my kitchen.